Well, hello and welcome to the Larson Hicks Show. It's good to have you here joining me with my son, Micah Hicks. What's up, buddy?
Not much. Just chilling.
It's good to have you on the show.
It is. You had my older brother. You had Jed on a while ago. So
All right, the score is settled. The score is even. Um, nicely done. Nicely done. Well, we were texting on the family thread today about the TPUSA halftime show. And so, it was kind of interesting. We got a little bit of a debate going on our thread. And so you were like, hey, let's jump on the podcast and talk about it. So here we are. This is kind of more or less a reaction video, perhaps, to the TPUSA halftime show. And so, and who knows where else maybe this conversation will go. But, if you're not familiar with my son, I'm going to introduce you, Micah. Micah is my second oldest son. He lives in Moscow, Idaho, where he is working full-time in sales for Micah PSM and did some part-time school at New St. Andrews. He's taking a break right now. But what else is there to say about you, Micah?
yeah, not much. Work a lot. Been engaging more with a lot of the stuff going on. You can find me on X, or it's so hard. I feel like it's so hard to say X. I always want to say Twitter, but
Twitter was a better name.
yeah, I think so. But I love you, Elon. I love you. And then and then I've got some stuff on Instagram too. But I think I really recently the Charlie Kirk thing. I think kind of led me to want to be more open about my beliefs and share those with people. And so I've been trying to have a lot of conversations just with my friends and people around me. And I think so. I started a few months ago. I created a separate Instagram account. I can't even remember the handle. If you want to look it up, it's like Micah Hicks _07 or something like that. But I just been, every time I have a thought about something, I'll make a video, and that's led to a lot of really fruitful conversations with friends, which has been a huge blessing. And then same thing with X. I've been just following all these pastors in the CREC and people I know, and just engaging with their content. And it's been extremely helpful for me, and I'm reading a lot, which is a new one for me. So but I don't know, not a whole lot else to say about me. Out here in Moscow, Idaho. So get to learn from a lot of these great people out here. So
Well, it's kind of funny. Your story about getting on social media is similar to mine. I mean, I was on, Facebook, like everybody in my generation, but it was hearing Doug Tinapel share about his experience just getting on. I think it was TikTok, and he was just recording these short videos, and he had a lot of really incredible conversations with people, and was able to lead some people to the Lord. And he exhorted people at the Fight Life Feast conference several years ago. Just he's like, hey, you're a Christian, just get out there and speak. Social media is the public square, just speak. So I was convicted at that point to go ahead and start a YouTube channel, and I don't post very often, but I get plenty of comments from people who have listened to some of the videos, and it's been edifying. So I'm happy to be a little brick in the wall here. And I'm happy that you're coming alongside and joining me on the wall here. And I think let's maybe jump in to the TPUSA thing, because I thought, I'll say I was really thrilled to see this event organized. What I want to avoid doing here in this conversation, I'll just say at the outset, is doing the like armchair quarterback thing, where we're like sitting on the sidelines and being judgy about people who are actually getting out there and doing something. So I think that's probably the first thing to be said, is like cheers and kudos to them for organizing something and putting it together and for pulling it off as a huge feat. And they had, I don't know, I haven't tried to find out what the stats were, but it was like a lot of people, many, many millions of people that tuned in. So
Just shy of 5 million, at least on YouTube. I don't.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I know that they were on other platforms at the same time. And so I wonder, I'm sure someone's done the math by this point on how many. Um, I don't want to type on my chat GPT right now, but I'm sure we could find out if we did a little homework. But it was a lot of people. And I even heard arguments that it was more people than the other, but that may be totally fake news. Regardless, I think it was prompted by the announcement of Bad Bunny, and it was like, I don't know anything about Bunny. I still don't. I think he's trans or gay or something, and it was going to be like a godless spectacle. Yeah, right. So I think everyone just knew, gosh, here comes more madness, being shoved down our throats on like the biggest televised event of the year, and I really appreciated that TPUSA said, hey, let's just do something different.
Yeah. I feel the exact same way, and I've been speaking out. Like, I need to be careful about what I say because I've been speaking out against people who just are willing to say how someone's doing it wrong and how it should be done this way, but aren't willing to go do something. So that needs to be absolutely said at the onset, as that is 100%. I'm so glad that it happened. Bad Bunny, like he's people know who he is. I know who he was, but I'm also in the younger generation. So, but it was such an interesting pick for such an American event where nobody knows what he's saying. He's not speaking our language. And it was funny. There's somebody who went around and like interviewed. I can't remember where that video was, but interviewed like a lot of the NFL players that were playing that day. Like, hey, do you know who Bad Bunny is? And they're all like, no, I never heard of that guy. And so it's like we're at the most like one of the pinnacles of American culture. And we're having this guy doesn't even speak our language come out, and a lot of his lyrics are extremely sexual, extremely explicit. If you actually look at the translations, very vulgar, and not a family friendly thing. Women shaking their booties at the camera. Like I didn't tune in, but I did see clips and everything, and also videos from like the crowd and like the reaction, and barely anybody's dancing. They're all like, what is going on? So I was so glad that I was so glad that it's a lot of people are just like, yeah, we're gonna strike and whatever, you can strike all you want, but it was good to see TPUSA do something proactive to say, hey, we're not gonna just speak out against this. We're just gonna do something else, and I think that's important. And so what they did was impressive. They got together a lot of big artists, recognizable people, you've done some concert promoting, Dad, so you know a little bit about it. But it was a big event, and a lot of people tuned in, and so kudos to them. And it's definitely better than watching this kind of woke propaganda. So I would have rather. I'm glad I watched it. So yeah, it was a great thing. It was a step in the right direction. It was what we needed, and I think it sparked a lot of really good conversations on social media just with people about it. So
I mean, I'll jump to my favorite part about it. My favorite part, I guess that a lot of Christians feel the same way. My favorite part was the very last verse of the last song that Robert Ritchie, Kid Rock, sang, which is a very straightforward presentation of the gospel. That was great. I mean, that was worth the whole thing for me. You've got millions and millions of people around the country watching, and you get a dude just calling people to come to Jesus and open their Bibles and confess their sins and repent and believe in Jesus. So that was lovely. That was probably my favorite part, and I was really delighted that on a day and during a time when annually we all shut our TVs off or stare in bewilderment at the parade of flesh and debauchery that is being shoved down our throats, that during that time we had someone who himself, Kid Rock, like the song that he opened with is like his famous song from like the 90s or the early 2000s. And that's kind of a rough song, kind of a rough music video I remember from back in the day. So he himself is a guy who came out of that world and is now preaching the gospel. So yeah, that was a cool moment. I was really thrilled to see that happen.
Yeah, and it was it was funny. Like just before this, I was sitting with one of my buddies who's um, he's a character. He was actually just interviewed by the New York Times. Shout out Ben Coons if he watches this, but he was telling me like he's been listening to that "Till You Can't" song by whatever Kid Rock recently, but we were all in our living room watching this show, and at the very end where like the music went quiet, and then it just was like in loving memory of Charlie Kirk, and like they did that video, and then it was just kind of like left it there. He started bawling, I almost started crying, and so it was like it was beautiful. And so I was glad I watched it. So yeah, 100%.
So our I think we've led with all of our favorite things and our positives. So it's time to kind of turn to criticisms. Um, I'll start if you want. I think you and I both agreed about this on our text thread today. I didn't love really any of the music beyond that final song and really that final verse. I was not really um, very interested in any of the music. I felt like the vibe, was kind of had a little bit of that cheesy Christian, um, I don't know, worship music sort of vibe, like, and the lyrics, like I think that second guy, I don't remember these people's names, but that second guy, one of his songs was about how it's like hard to be a Christian in America these days, and that's just like a little bit of a lame, kind of weak posture, in my opinion. It's like I understand it probably gets people excited to hear someone saying what people are feeling, but yeah. So like it wasn't. I think it would have been cool, and I'll let you share your thoughts. But I think it would have been really cool to have just like an amazing artist, and to like sort of set the precedent that there's a new halftime show in town, and it's and the art and the quality is better than the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I have a couple thoughts. So if we're so I mean this is what the halftime show is, and so they're marketing as a halftime show, so I'm going to hold it to the standard they're marketing it to. So if I'm going to say if they're going to say, hey, this is a worship service during the Super Bowl halftime show, I'd be judging this differently. If it but that's not what they marketed it as. So the Super Bowl, I mean, like some of the most iconic like Super Bowl like halftime shows were people like Michael Jackson, and like they're just amazing, amazing performances, iconic people, make just sing. Oh, dude, yeah, like Purple Rain, like just some of the most beautiful, awesome songs, and it is good art. Like Michael Jackson, not a good person, but like really great music. And
Well, it is always like a spectacle. It's like an over the top like spectacle.
but that's America. Like 4th of July, we go over the top. We right, it's the Super Bowl, and so um, it definitely. So what I felt about this performance was it didn't fit the vibe like at all. I don't think it when I was expecting something a little bit more theatrical, and it felt very sterile. The audience that was pictured on camera almost felt like kind of like rehearsed. It just felt. I think there was a live audience when they were recording it. I think it was pre-recorded, and it just felt very sterile, and it felt like a non-denominational worship service for the most part, and so it just felt There's a quote I love by Martin Luther, I believe, where he says I'm paraphrasing, but he says, the Christian shoemaker doesn't make good shoes by putting little crosses on shoes. He makes good shoes by making good shoes, you know? So like by being a good shoemaker. In the same way, this is my philosophy on music. And it's why I'm not the biggest fan of Christian music, is that oftentimes, Christian music is just slapping crosses on music and calling it good, spinning the wheel of Christianese terms to make, you know, music. Um, and the problem with it is, and this is my opinion, and I'm not saying it's the right one, but God gave us gifts, and He intended for us to use those gifts well. And by using them well, that is the ultimate way that He brings glory to Himself. When if God gave me the talent of music, I would, and I use that talent to make incredible music that is respected and known by a lot of people. Um, and I acknowledge that God is the person who gave me that gift, and that brings glory to Him. Versus just saying, "Oh, like I'm gonna make this garbage music, but call it Christian." I actually think that brings shame to God. I think it's like, hey, you're putting my name on this thing that's terrible. Like it's not talent. It's not. The scripture tells us to sing skillfully, and it doesn't necessarily. It's like, I mean, of course, it says that we should, you know, like David. You know, all the Psalms are songs and they're about God, but he also sings about nature. Like, you know, it's. I'm not trying to say that everybody should.
Yeah, a lot of psalms are blues songs.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. I don't think we should always just sing about, our music should only be about God necessarily, and I don't think shouldn't, and I don't think it shouldn't be about God. Like, but I think who we're writing it for, and what, like, we're trying to use our skills to make good music. So one of my favorite bands, which I think would have been a perfect fit for this event, is the Red Clay Strays, and I went to a show in Huntsville, packed out, sold out show, and they just sang egregiously Christian songs that were good songs. And they sang this one, and the lyrics were like, you know, repent of your sins, go get baptized in the water, like, you know, and like just, and I've got my hands up in the air. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. At the end of the song, like the lights go off and I just yell amen. And you know, lead singer like looks over at me, like gives me a wave. And like, it was just, and what he said after that song, cause everyone's like, wow, these guys are real Christian. What he said after that song is, hey, we're not a Christian band. We're just a band of Christians trying to make good art. And that stood out to me, and I quote that all the time. Like, we're not a band of Christians. We're not a Christian band, just a band of Christians trying to make good art. I think that's really how our outlook should be when we're trying to put stuff out in the world that's artistic. We should focus on making it good. If it's not good, we should make it.
Well, I think you bring up a couple good points. One is like I think the billing as a halftime show, they're doing it during the halftime show, so it's like an alternative halftime show. So I think that does set an expectation for what it's going to be. It's sort of and so the expectation of a spectacle that's going to compete with the spectacle of the halftime show is kind of set. I think there's probably you could reframe it as a halftime concert, or a halftime, you could do something to change the wording so that the expectation is a little different. But they call it a halftime show, right? And so I think we were all expecting a show, like a halftime, a traditional Super Bowl halftime show. So I thought that's a good point. To me, I don't think that there was any expectation that was Christian necessarily, just conservative and pro America. I think you could have had a Chris Stapleton or an Alison Krauss or any number of great American, even Billy Strings or something. Like, you could have just had any number of, I don't know how pro America Billy Strings is, but I'm just saying there's plenty of great American, artists that you could have had. I thought, I don't know, someone had said that Forrest Frank was in the running. Forrest Frank would have been a great pick. He's huge, charismatic, Christian, hugely popular.
I should have yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Like the goal was actually to be conservative, like right leaning, not necessarily faith based. I think it turned out to be that way, but and that was actually why there's a couple articles that I read about Forrest Frank. Like I think, uh, I, I believe he turned it down because it was going to be more of a political thing than a faith thing. Um,
Yeah, he would have been more into it if it was like a Christian thing, but yeah, he's not necessarily trying to pick sides on politics. That's fine. I think there's a thing about, I organized a music festival and used to do concerts and stuff, and you only get you only get one chance to make a first impression, and you sort of, whatever you do the first time is sort of sets the tone and the expectation for what it's going to be kind of forever. And so I do think that I think you're going to have a hard, like if you wanted to get Allison Krauss or Chris Stapleton to do it next year, they're going to go, I don't want to be a part of something like that. Like that was lame, And so I do think that there was a bit of a missed opportunity there. Obviously those people are, I'm sure, super expensive and would have been very difficult to get probably, but I bet it could have been done. So yeah, I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity there. I just don't think they were ambitious enough, maybe, or aimed high enough. They accomplished a non-woke, pro-American alternative 10 minutes of entertainment during the Super Bowl halftime. So they did, mission accomplished there. Stole a lot of eyeballs from Bad Bunny, which is great. But yeah, your brother has worked for a company called Lure that was this like alternative streaming platform, and he has a sticker that's like on the back of one of our cars at home, and on, I know, his computer, it says Christian movies shouldn't suck. And I thought of that immediately when I watched it. It was like, darn it, like here we go again, like going out in public and instead of doing something really awesome, we kind of put something forward that was kind of weak and a little lame. And it was like kind of a bummer. It was just, that's kind of how I felt about it. It was a little bit of a bummer that we kind of fumbled the ball, or TPUSA maybe fumbled the ball a little bit on this big opportunity to do something really excellent.
Yeah, and we need to also have some charity. Like it's possible they tried, but we just don't know. Either way, I do think whether they tried or not, it could be done, and I think it could be done next year. I think your point though about setting the bar really low. It's like the reason people go to Bonnaroo to play shows because it's like this huge thing. It's got this reputation, and so it's like you don't want to start it off with this like you could, if you wanted to aim small, but do something really good, then do that. But I think they kind of got caught in this, like, let's make it big, but it kind of just wasn't like, I think one of their biggest problems is they had too many artists. Like a halftime show usually just has one guy, like one band, and so yeah, it's kind of a medley, and so you got like it was just kind of weird. Anyways, it was still
The thing that's amazing about the halftime show, historically, kind of the tradition of the halftime show, is you get an artist at the at the peak of their powers. Like you get somebody who is like at the absolute peak of their fame and of their and they're like a totally known quantity. Like this is somebody who sells out arenas and has been for a decade. And it's like somebody like that has put in like a U2 or a Madonna or fill in the blank. Like these people have toured internationally forever and played in front of millions and millions of people. And there is a real craft to performing for an arena and putting on a show that's going to blow people's minds. And that's kind of the Super Bowl. Like the Super Bowl is this over the top event and the halftime shows is over the top. So anyway, the thing that we're all thrilled about, with the halftime show is like you're about to see one of the best performers of all time get up and do one of the most over the top, elaborate performances that they'll ever do in their career. And so to go from that and go, well, it's going to be just woke and disgusting probably. So let's flip the channel. But here's someone advertising an alternative. It just felt like you had bands. I don't know these bands. I mean, maybe these people are really seasoned performers. But I didn't get that vibe. Like I didn't. It didn't feel like wow, what a performance, what a spectacle, which is kind of what the halftime show is. So so yeah, I don't know. It's a lot to live up to, and so you either need to do something to really temper expectations, or you need to really swing for the fence and get somebody awesome.
Yeah, it's hard to live up to Prince going up on a stage and the rain coming down and shining purple light on it and singing Purple Rain. So
He like shredded, like played like one of the most crazy guitar solos while it's just raining cats and dogs, and just put on like an incredible. But that's like what I'm talking about. Is like that's a guy who has put in his 10,000 hours, playing in arenas, and is an absolute master of the stage, and it was pretty amazing to watch.
yeah, I mean, just being completely like, so one thing is that we know that Turning Point USA has can put together some pretty stellar events. Like they put together this enormous memorial service in like the span of 2 weeks at an NFL stadium with the president of the United States. So I think they could probably pull something off. That they've shown that they can do it. But I really like what I would love to see next year. Is I'd love to see like just a big headliner, like somebody like I actually don't know where Stapleton falls on the side of politics, but people like Chris Stapleton singing White Horse would have blown everybody away. Red Clay Strays could deliver an awesome show. I mean, you'd mentioned a couple other guys, but I'd love to see a big headliner just do an awesome show that people want to actually go watch, and that the goal would be not to just draw all the conservatives away from the Super Bowl. The goal would be like that's going to happen organically, I think. But the goal would be like, if Red Clay Strays and like, oh, I had the idea of like Oliver Anthony, like that'd be a cool one to like have as like an opener for like some other band or something. But like, what would happen is that you'd have people who maybe aren't even on the conservative side of the movement or aren't Christians, maybe just go there because they're like, heck, I would love to see these guys way more than somebody speaking Spanish on. Like, I would way rather see that. Like, I know. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know who wouldn't. Like, nobody knew what the guy was saying, and also the whole thing wasn't like it was. Yeah, it was just weird. And so, like, if there was an artist doing an alternative show that is somebody that we would actually want to go watch, like, you wouldn't just get all the people on our side of the fence, but you'd get people who just want to go see that. And I think that would be a good thing for the conservative movement. It'd be a good thing to opportunity to spread the gospel. Like, hey, this is because I think that's going to happen organically too with people like that and that organization Turning Point. So I'd love to see something like that.
It does sort of reveal the reality that it's pretty hard to think of somebody who checks the box of somebody who's put in their 10,000 hours as a seasoned, arena filling artist who would be willing to play a show put on by TPUSA. Like that's a pretty hard needle to thread. And I obviously have not been in that position to try to thread that needle. It's one thing to just say TPUSA wants to be a sponsor of this event that is being put on that's just an alternative. But when they put their branding all over it, it's like, well, you need to now subscribe to the TPUSA thing. And for what it's worth, like TPUSA and Charlie Kirk have been so maligned, since Charlie's death that I do think so many in the entertainment business are like,
Yeah, it's like a fray you almost don't want to jump into. Like, you can have your opinion on it, but like if you come out and say it, which I mean, I'm on the side like just go ahead and say it, but you know, people don't want to say it. But that was the other thing I was going to say. But yeah, you're completely right. It's like I don't think Turning Point is the organization to do that. I think that just has some. You're not. I mean, yeah. I think what's in like sort of back to my argument of like putting the little crosses on shoes, sort of the same way, like putting the TPUSA logo on the thing or whatever. Like, is it more important? What's going to make a bigger impact? A organization that's maybe not explicitly right leaning or explicitly Christian, putting on just a really good show that draws a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs away from this woke thing that's going on. Does that make a bigger impact than somebody who's trying to do something that's very explicitly right leaning and Christian? And I think the answer is that if somebody just had the effort, I don't care who it is, but put in the effort to put on some crazy cool show as an alternative to the halftime show, just solely because like who wants to go see Bad Bunny is not even an American necessarily. Like I think that's actually going to be a bigger deal. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, from a business standpoint, if you're trying to promote TPUSA, you know, all of the brands that advertised for the Super Bowl paid more money to get 30 seconds to advertise during the Super Bowl than I'm sure TPUSA did to put on their halftime show. And they probably saw more of a benefit than TPUSA did. So I think they were more like this wasn't about exclusively about advertising. This was about the like, let's do something that's an alternative. And so if that's the case, like I do think there's like a really interesting business opportunity there for somebody who just says, why don't we, instead of making this a branded, you know, TPUSA event, like let's just start this tradition of doing a pro America or non woke alternative concert during the Super Bowl or during the halftime of the Super Bowl. And then you could sell advertising, to that event, right? And you're going to get millions and millions of eyeballs on it, and you can make money and probably pay people. But then you don't necessarily commit all the participants to having to like sign off, on the TPUSA brand. That could be an interesting way to approach it.
At one of the other NFL stadiums host like a huge Super Bowl watch party, and then like up on the Megatrons, and then at the halftime have a crazy halftime show. Like I could see that happening, and I could see that happening like in a couple different locations. Like there's somebody's doing that out in California, somebody's doing that in the Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Like I could see that happening, and that not necessarily being like hey, the real Super Bowl has this one, but we're doing all these things. It's like a ticketed event, and that's like you go, you watch the Super Bowl. There's like, all sorts of things going on. That'd be really fun. I'd love to see that become like a thing.
Well, I think it's all fascinating. I think what's cool is that we're having this conversation because somebody, did something, and instead of just talking about how terrible everything is. So, again, to kind of close the conversation, hats off to TPUSA for actually doing something and not just talking about it. That's the first step, and I wish more of us had the courage to just go do things. And be willing to like do it badly rather than sit around and just talk about it. So yeah, but it does hopefully trigger a lot of people to think bigger and be more ambitious and try to do something even better and more awesome in the future. And yeah, it sort of opens I think it does kind of open my mind is running now like what other major events throughout the year exist where America is all paying attention that we could have an opportunity, Christians could have an opportunity to go do something big. Like I mean, it's been most of my lifetime, your entire lifetime, that we've just assumed that yeah, halftime show at the Super Bowl is going to be just pure anti-Christian propaganda, and we're all gonna like have to go. We're either have to turn the TV off, or we're gonna like watch it with like one eye closed and have to go like take a bath afterwards because we'll feel gross. And so it's like that's just something we as Americans be like, well, but that's what we do. We just do it every year, and it's just whatever. And so it is cool to see people go, do we have to do that? Why don't we do something different? And we don't have to throw the baby out the bathwater. We can say like, yeah, we love football, we love the NFL, we love seeing excellent athletes go head to head and compete. We just don't have to accept this like agenda that's typically accompanies it.
Yeah, that's actually such an interesting like people. I think Christians fall into this trap a lot of times where it's like if we don't like something and it's not a good culture fit, we just abandon it altogether and just we don't replace it with anything. Like Halloween, for example, like people don't like, they might not like certain connotations of Halloween, so they just like throw it out completely. And it's like, well, that's actually a really fun, like some of my best memories as a kid were Halloween and trick-or-treating and doing fun things with my family. And I think we needed and this is just part of I think part of the just culture war, like how are we going to build better culture as Christians? Like, instead of just abandoning the things that are there for a reason and can be good things, why don't we just redeem them? And why can't we just take steps towards doing that? And I think what's great about this whole Super Bowl thing is that exactly what you said. I never had the idea of an alternative halftime show before until this happened. And so I think people are now thinking, like, I wouldn't be surprised if next year we see like 4 different things going on, like different things you could tune into if you want to. And like in the same way, it's like, hey, we don't like the public schools, so we're just going to go home. And like that can be great for some people, but it's not for other people. Like people just want to abandon the institutions that are bad, which might be necessary, but let's also build institutions. You're wearing an NSA cap right now, and I got to go to that school for a bit. And the mission of that school is creating people that will shape culture. We're training up people that will go out and shape culture. And so we don't shape culture by just unplugging from all the things. We shape culture by going out and building. There's a coffee shop, like the Sword and the Shovel out here. And the whole point of that is like, we fight and we build. And so I think, yeah, TPUSA, I think showed the world, hey, we can actually do things, and there's a big enough, what's great about organizations like TPUSA is it just brings people together that maybe like they might not see eye to eye on some things, but like this is the whole thing with like, I think maybe the like Catholicity with the church, like we all do different things, but if we can get together on one thing, like we're on the same side of a lot of things, like Protestants and Catholics, we're on the same side of things when it comes to the sanctity of life and protecting life in the womb. And like if we join forces on that, we can do a lot of good. So I think we need to be more proactive in creating organizations and doing things that actually provide benefit than just unplugging from everything, going off the grid.
Yeah. Well, it's a good word, Micah, and I know you and I could kind of just keep going on and on if we didn't stop ourselves. But for the sake of our listeners and their attention span, I say we wind it down, and I'll let you have that last word. I think it's a good word that Christians, that what TPUSA showed us is that we don't have to just accept the cultural drift, and we don't have to, nor do we have to just opt out. There's actually a third way where we engage and we kind of fight fire with fire, and we offer up something, an alternative to the world that is more true and more good and more beautiful. And so anyway, cheers to TPUSA for leading the way in this, and may many more enterprising Christians and go out and engage in similar fashion in the future.
100%.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for tuning in, listeners, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.